Welcome to the Button Tree Book Club. We are back, and we have a bit of a new look starting this week. We decided to do some fixing and tweaking, and we decided to come up with just a more visually appealing background finally. I mean, not that before it wasn't great, but now you can see the book much easier, won't be covering my screen. And I mean, now we can make them a little unique for each week, and we're just changing it up, because why not? New year, we're trying new things. Alright, this week we are talking about the first book of Lux. Let's see if you can actually see it. We are talking about Lux, Book 1, Obsidian. I love this author. Jennifer L. I feel bad. Armentrout is how I've always thought her name would be pronounced, but maybe there's it's one of those weird spellings where you don't actually say some letters. I don't know. I love this author. I don't think I've ever read anything by her I didn't love. This was not the first thing I ever read by her. I think a long time ago I read the Covenant series. That was my first that I read by her quite a while back. And I did read this quite a while back. It was probably 8 years ago. 8-ish. This was new when I read it. But I'm coming back to it because it's been a while, and I actually didn't remember too much about it. So I was like, all right, we're going to reread. I love this series. I mean, I've only read book 1, and I've barely started book 2. I love this series. I love the concept. I love the world. I love the characters, the plot. I love everything about this. For one thing, the main character, Katie or Catty, I never know. I'm pretty sure it's Catty, Katie. I don't know how you pronounce her name. I'm going to go with Cat. She is Cat. She loves books as much as I do. I think that's one thing that always drew me to this character. Half of her personality, she is a book blogger. And I was like, yes! Someone else who's just as obsessed with books as I am. I mean, I don't blog exactly, I do this. But I was like, yes, someone else who loves books, because I am obsessed with books, guys. I love reading. I love reviewing them. I love talking about them. I could probably go on and on about any book for hours and hours, but I don't want to bore people. So I have to sum it up in 5 to 10 minutes. This series is going to be one that I do a video for each of the books. There's 5 in all in this particular series. Now, I understand that with this series, there are also novellas. There's little short side stories. I'm not going to review those, at least not now. I'm going to do the 5 main books, which are, there's Obsidian, Onyx, Opal, Origin, and Opposition. I think I said that in the right order. I will be doing the main 5 books. Maybe down the line I'll come back and do some of the novellas and the prequels and the extras. Maybe. But for now, this is just going to be the main 5. But today, in this particular video, I'm just talking about Book 1, Obsidian. What I love about Jennifer Armentrout's writing is I laugh out loud reading what she writes. She writes such witty, sarcastic dialogue for her characters. She makes these just super sassy, feisty characters. Cat, for one. She is timid, and her whole development in this is she's coming out of her shell. And she's timid, but she is feisty and sarcastic. I love listening to her talk. And then there's Damon. He is just a selfish, sarcastic, arrogant jerk. But he's also pretty darn, the way they describe him, he's a very attractive individual. And I like that this wasn't one of those things where it's boy meets girl and they're in love right away. I'm so glad I didn't do that. I love that book 1 is pretty much them just constantly hating on each other. You can tell there's attraction. Of course there's going to be attraction. Jennifer Armentrout is she writes amazing romances. She creates amazing romances. Even if they aren't the main plot, they are so well written and so well done in all of her stories. And this is no exception. But the romance really doesn't start in book 1. The characters, they have this weird, sometimes we're passive and we'll be okay for a minute, but then they're right back to being jerks to each other. I love their conversations. I wish I had thought ahead to mark some of the conversations they have and I could just read some of their dialogues, because half the time it's just her going you're a jerk and I hate you, but in a more sarcastic, hilarious way, and him going right back at ya. It's great. It's great. I love their dynamic. Now, there's also other characters, of course there. There's Dee, the sister. Dee is the reason that Kat meets Damon. Dee is the twin sister of Damon. And they meet first, and she wants to be friends. Obviously, Damon's like, don't be friends with my sister, and I'm all protective and big and strong, and I'm gonna be a jerk because you want to be friends with my sister. Now, here's the thing. I'm not really spoiling anything. If you're reading Lux, you know something about the premise already. Dee and Damon and other characters are aliens. They are not from Earth. They are from the planet Lux. They are the Luxan, is what they are. And they are some freaking awesome aliens. And I love how Kat, she's like, I read books about aliens. They're insect creatures, or the little green men with the big eyes. And he's like, you watch and read way too many movies and books. And I'm like, right? But no, I like how she's not the character, when she finds out about all of this, she doesn't freak out and go like, oh my gosh, the world is ending, it's all terrible, and I'm gonna lose my mind, and this, and no, she's cool. She's cool. I think that's my favorite thing. She loves books, and because she loves books, she can handle this, because she's like, I've read worse than books, guys. I can handle it being in my real life. Like, I think we all kind of wish things from books would become real in our life. I know I do sometimes. I just wish, like, oh, magic suddenly exists. Yes, it's not just in books anymore, but no, I wish. But because she's so cool and well-read, she's like, cool, I've read about this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know about you specifically, but, like, it doesn't just make her freak out. She's not the hesitant hero. She's like, all right, this is awesome. This is cool. I'm all for it. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna be part of your team. And of course, like, the aliens are kind of jerks. They're like, oh, humans are lesser than us, because that is one stereotype I will say most alien anything will always have. The aliens always think that the humans are less. Now, in this case, it's kind of true. I mean, they're similar. There are so many similarities. But yeah, the aliens have some super awesome powers. Like, they're, what is it? Lux is like light. So they're literally beings of light. They can bend light. They can do things with light. And then there's other powers that they have, and I don't want to, like, give it all away. But they're beings of light. And they have all these amazing powers to do with light. And of course, with any, aliens, you know that there's gonna be some government stuff going on. There wasn't too much government stuff in this one, actually. You hear about, like, how there's, government interference in their lives, but that's all you really get in this one. And I know, like, the government becomes a much bigger deal to the storyline later on, I think even in book 2 and moving forward. But the first villain they introduce is the other alien species, the Arum, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's Arum, so it depends on how you look at it phonetically. I'm gonna go with Arum, that's how I always read it, the Arum. And they are creatures of darkness. I mean, obviously where there's a light, there's gotta be a dark. So that makes sense. But at least it's not cliche of like, light is good and dark. I mean, okay, it is kind of. But it wasn't done poorly. It was done where it's like, Luxan, they're not like these pure, angelic, kind creatures. No, like, they're human. They can be sarcastic and mean. Now, the Arum, they're just evil. The Arum are evil. They're creatures of darkness that just want to consume light. So there's nothing good about them. But at least the Luxan aren't like these holier than thou, like, super sweet, kind, angelic type. I think that would have made me sick. But no, like, Jennifer Armentrout's not going to do that. She creates, like, really dynamic, interesting characters. The only thing I will say is I can agree with Kat's character. Damon's hot and cold act that goes on for most of the book, it can get a little annoying. It can, because at moments she's maybe like, just chill out already. Like, one minute you're all nice and kind, and you seem like a decent human trying to be being. And then you're a total jerk. And it's like, there's a switch that always just goes like that. And I can't. There are moments it gets to me too, and I feel for Kat. There are other characters. I mean, obviously she interacts with humans. I guess I should go back to the fact. So Kat is new to the town she's living in. This town is like full of aliens, and she's moving to this town from Florida. This town is in West Virginia, and it's like it's your stereotypical small town with alien. Like, I will admit that was a little stereotypical, but at least it's done in a way where I'm like, it's not boring and it's not completely unoriginal, because she brings in different things that make this world unique. Like, the stones. There's a lot of different stones. I mean, the fact that the book is obsidian, there's onyx, there's opal, and then we learn about there's also like there's quartz, and they all have a particular role, which is really cool. I don't want to spoil what all those are, but I will say there's a reason that I have a lot of jewelry after reading this that has onyx and opal. I think I even have something obsidian and quartz. Like, they're important, and you don't see that in every single one. Like, every alien story, every vampire story, every werewolf story, there is something unique, and that makes each author's world different. But sometimes they can seem too similar and it can still be boring. This didn't do that. There was enough in the world building, enough in the plot development, enough in what she made particular to these aliens and then the bad aliens. There was enough to where I was like, this is unique. I haven't read anything like this before. I've read some things that might be similar, kind of, but this is very unique. And it's amazing. I don't know if I said this already. I would give this a 4 to 5 stars. It's great. And it gets better. It gets so much better. It's one of those stories where I think around book 3, 4, it does reach that point where it feels like you're being connected from an A to a B, which can happen a lot in some series. This happens a little bit. I think it's 3 or 4. I can't remember. I haven't read them yet. But it's still interesting enough where I'm like, I just have to get through this book. That doesn't happen, but definitely, like, with 5 books, you've got to have enough plot to keep going, and that does happen, which is why I'm going to do the entire series. But for now, that is all I'm going to discuss on Lux. This is book 1, Obsidian. Pretty soon I will have the other videos. I will have Onyx and Opal coming out, probably in the next couple weeks. Origin and Opposition might take a little bit longer because there's a lot in the works right now. But let's get to our drawing for what we'll be doing next week, because this is not going to continue like next week we're doing book 2, next week or week after book 3. No, this will be its own standalone thing. I'll be adding them periodically. So if you want to follow along, if you like the series, absolutely, like, stay tuned. They'll pop up. They won't be my Saturday book club, but they will be added. All right, let's do what we're doing for next week though. All right. I'm gonna try to actually keep my reach in there. Trying to not grab like 5. Ugh. Keep grabbing like 5. All right. All right, and next week we will be reading book 1 of the Avena trilogy by Marion Curley. It is young adult fantasy romance. All right, I mean, apparently I'm getting really good at doing young adult fantasy romance. I'll admit, that's a lot of what my book collection is. That's a lot of what I get recommendations for. I mean, they're good. I mean, are there some cheesy, cliche, corny ones? Oh, absolutely. But there's also a lot of good books in the young adult group. I mean, yeah, there's plenty in just like general fiction and fantasy, but like there's something about young adult that's just always been appealing to me in particular. So that is what ends up in my drawing a lot. Like, that's probably 50 to 70% of what is in here. There is other stuff. Like, I've got some classics thrown in. There is some nonfiction in there. There is some just straight up fantasy. There's some straight up romance. There might even be a few sci-fi in there. I can't remember. I've done a lot of like pulling things out, putting new things in as time goes on. So I don't remember for sure, but I'm sure over time there will be. So next week we have book 1 of the Avena trilogy. So I will see you then. If you are not subscribed to our channel, you really should be. We have lots that's coming up pretty soon. We're working on it. We're always trying to add new things because we have a lot of hobbies. Like, don't get me wrong, we love games, I love book club, but we are working on a lot of projects right now. We're working on some DIY craft projects that we're going to be putting up soon. We've got a few of them made already. They're just kind of stuck in the editing phase because it's a little harder to do. Different things require different media, and it's a process. But soon we're going to have some craft videos. We're going to have more baking videos because we know how much fun the first one was. I'm also planning on trying to work on some music-based, music focus videos, because a lot of the music you hear on our channel, like if it's part of a video game, that wasn't me, but I actually make, like the music you're hearing right now in the background, I did that. I've studied music practically my entire life, so I like composing music, I like creating music, and I want to do something where it's more music focused. You can kind of see what goes into music making, because it's really fun. There's lots of different media I use and things like that. So that's coming soon too. And then I'm sure there's other things I've just forgotten about. I mean, we're going to try to add some art. We're going to try to add in some other things that are still under wraps because we haven't determined exactly how we're going to do them yet. But we have a lot coming. So if you like what you've seen so far and you like people that are just following their hobbies and are super excited to share them with you, you should subscribe. You should tell people about us. We really like what we do and we'd love to share with more people. So I will see you next week when we talk about our next book. Bye!